So last week I decided to watch and review, of course, the first episode of Lucha Underground on the El Rey network, and I stressed in the video that I hope it would be some kind of viable option, or at least some kind of alternative to WWE, TNA, etc., which, quite frankly, right now, I am not watching any of. I am only really watching NXT, and you know, at certain points it did provide an alternative, but there were certain points where I just saw same old mainstream stuff, mainstream wrestling promotion stuff in the products, and that I wasn't really very pleased with that. I think my review, while it was honest and while it was objective, I'm not sure I won many fans over because I think it did hinder on the negative side a little bit. But I did put something in the description box. I did put some positive stuff in the description box because I at least gave them credit for trying to go out there and do something a little bit different. I just thought the execution maybe wasn't as good as a lot of fans have been trying to put over. I've seen a lot of fans saying, this is brilliant, this is 10 out of 10, off the wall stuff, what a fantastic show. I'm sorry, but I don't think it is that. But I stuck around to watch episode 2 of Lucha Underground, and the following video will be my review of that. The first thing I want to say, actually, is if you have any thoughts or comments on the show, please put them in the comment section below. But in all seriousness, the opening video package. Now, WWE is, usually are very good when it comes to production values, and I respect them for that. They always have been. But Lucha Underground has got pretty good production as well in terms of their video packages. This video package they did, it didn't really feel like a normal wrestling promotion video package. It, had different effects and stuff in there. I thought this was quite well produced and actually got me quite into the show. It was literally just a recap. It's the same thing you'd see on TNA and WWE, but in essence, some of the basic booking practices kind of have to be there. You have to kind of amp up and remind people of what happened last week, just like any TV show generally does. Like, you get it on stuff like The Big Bang Theory. You used to get it on things like Frasier, etc. every now and then. So the video package did a really good job this week of actually getting me hyped up for the show. So to open up the show, we had a promo from the guys who beat down Johnny Mundo and Puma to end the show last week and get the $100,000 for impressing Dario Cueto. The three guys were Cortez Castro, Cisco, and Big Rick. I'm not really too familiar with the two guys, the two Mexican guys, or they look Mexican to me. Of course, we all know Ezekiel Jackson from the WWE as Big Rick. And, you have them cutting a promo about what happened last week. Johnny Mundo comes out to get a piece of them by himself. He then gets backed up by Prince Puma, while Big Rick stands on the outside and just lets his cronies get beaten down and doing nothing. But I suppose that's a good top heel for you there, letting everyone else get beat up at your expense. And then the boss Dario Cueto comes out channeling his inner Teddy Long and making a tag team match player. Well, I don't know how you'd say that in Mexican, but there you go. And while this made sense from a storyline standpoint, and there are some aspects of pro wrestling that you have to kind of adhere to with storyline continuance and stuff, again, I go back to this, I want this to be an alternative to WWE and TNA, and I just saw a typical TNA and WWE opening segment. I'm just calling a spade here, guys. This is basically what it was. It was heels cutting a promo, baby faces come in, heel authority figure, which is another played out thing in pro wrestling, makes a tag team match player. Like I said again, trying to be different, but at the end of the day, really not. At least, this promo segment only went a couple of minutes before we got to a positive in this show, which I will go on to next. So I talked about last week how I felt that the first match on the show really needed to sort of set the tone for the show and the actual identity of the show, and how last week Chavo versus Blue Demon Jr. really didn't do that at all. Well, I know this week we opened with a promo segment, but it was very short, and what we got in this match between Johnny Mundo, Prince Puma, and Cortez and Cisco, the crony tag team, so to speak, in this tag team match, was a much better and faster kind of start to the show I expect out of Lucha Underground. This is the kind of start and the kind of tone I would imagine that a show like this would set every single week. So this match, it came off very well in my opinion. It was actually the high point of the show, and there's no surprise really because it involves John Morrison, or Johnny Mundo, and Prince Puma, who is obviously going to be some kind of big, young up-and-coming star for the promotion down the line. That's the way they're booking the guy. So like I said, a much better, faster way to open the show than we got last week. More of what I expect from the identity of the show, but it does provide one problem though. With all this lucha stuff and high-flying action and, spots, etc., the bad guys aren't really getting any heat because they're using Lucha style during the match like the baby faces are. So it's like the crowd are popping for the whole match and no one's really getting any heat, which, you know, you would think that a heel tag team would kind of try and do. But, you know, they just didn't. It's like Eric Rowan and Luke Harper all over again in WWE, you know, doing all these great high-flying stuff when they should really be there to try and get heat. That's a core part of wrestling, heat. So, you know, there was really no heat in this match, you know, from the crowd anyway. There was obviously heat from a storyline standpoint, but the baby faces go over here, and I thought the ending was pretty cool with the double 540 splash to end it, and you have Johnny Mundo, excuse me, and Prince Puma kind of embracing each other and respecting each other after winning the match, which led on to something, you know, later in the show between Prince Puma and Conan. So while the promo segment that opened the show was a bit, you know, mainstream wrestling, I've seen this all over, the following tag match really was something different that I could dig in the Lucha Underground and could be a reason why I would watch every week. One glaring thing I forgot to talk about last week, and I put it in the annotations just so you knew I actually did try and at least address it, was the character development on this show. I think this has generally been done very well. I mean, the character development, it's been simple, but good. I mean, like here, they're showcasing Prince Puma. They're giving you an insight into his background. It looks like they are trying to build a big star out of this guy, trying to put this guy over big time. I mean, but on the other hand, we've got to look at Mil Muertes, I believe, and his licker, Katrina, you know, later on in the show. I guess that's what she does, the lick of death. And I look at this video package for him, and they're trying to get him over as this intimidating guy, and then I see the mask, and then I see the cape, and I'm just like, well, I've lost that illusion straight away. He doesn't look that intimidating to me now. Now, I'm just saying, Lucha, I have no problem with Lucha or anything, but when you try and make a guy seem intimidating and he has a mask on and a cape on, the illusion just kind of goes. Just imagine a bad guy in a movie or something and he's just about to shoot you and he looks like a clown. You wouldn't be scared of the guy, would you? I'm just saying. So this was the match that Dario Cueto had lined up for Chavo Guerrero after his humiliating loss against Blue Demon Jr. to open the show last week. To have him in an intergender mixed tag match, Son of Havoc and Ivelisse versus Chavo Guerrero and Sexy Star. First question, why didn't Son of Havoc and Ivelisse get an entrance? You know, you'd think at least you'd be able to associate with them through their entrance. It's like, you know, last week they were putting over the fact that women can wrestle men, and they didn't really do a very good job of it, in my opinion, because they just had the guy plow through the woman and then hold the tights to get the win. But they kind of made it seem pretty pointless last week. You know, a guy's going to go against a woman and the guy is going to win every time. You know, but this week they did it a lot better, in my opinion. They did actually prove that women could be competition for men. Hell, they had Sexy Star get the pin on Son of Havoc. So at least here now, if you did that last week, you would have established the fact that women can compete with men, and maybe I would have been a little bit more interested in this match. But really, going into it, I saw this as a mixed tag, and I was just like, you know, what's Chavo got to do with this? Why can't we just have Ivelisse versus Sexy Star? These are the two people I want to see. You know, I don't need to see Chavo Guerrero. I don't need to see Son of Havoc here wrestling. Ivelisse and Sexy Star. Now, that would have been a good middle-of-the-show match, in my opinion. I just would have been more interested in seeing two women wrestle here. But, like I said, I think at least, even though it wasn't really to my liking, at least here they did a better job of establishing that mixed wrestling, or male and female being in the same ring together, could be more effective. It wasn't very showcased very well last week, but at least they continued on to this week and showed it a lot better. And to be honest, it was just better for the female talent in general, in my opinion. You've got Ivelisse, who we know from WWE, NXT in particular, and, you know, she's going to be a character, in my opinion. I know she's very good in the ring, and she's pretty hot as well. And Sexy Star is another female wrestler that Lucha Underground are trying to push. I gotta be honest with you, this week's main event was just the total opposite of last week's main event. I mean, last week's main event, we had Johnny Mundo versus Prince Puma, and I was quite interested, and they had a really good match to end the show. I thought that was a nice way to end the show. And this week they had, what, Mil Muertes versus Blue Demon Jr., and I didn't care. You know, what reason did I really have to care about this match? Oh, Dario Cueto was bringing in a guy to end the career of Blue Demon Jr. because Chavo Guerrero couldn't do it. Oh boy! That's an interesting main event to a show, isn't it? You know, at least I'll say this, though. At least Will Mertes was a little bit something different, not what you'd expect on a Lucha Underground show. And at least he was trying to get some fucking heat, which is more than I can say for the tag team in the first match that we're trying to be heels. But I know Blue Demon Jr. is 48 years old and has passed his prime, etc. Why did they put this on as the main event? You know, this would have been better just being in the middle of the card and just being a match which you wouldn't have to remember ended a show. So like I said, going in, I didn't really care too much about it. I don't really think they made us care too much about it. Quite frankly, I felt the main event of this week should have been the tag match. Yeah, it really should have done. But there you go, they didn't do it. And as for this big Chavo heel turn, you know, I understand why they did this. You know, they need another angle to close the show, to get us to think, you know, what's going to happen next week, and to try and get us to tune in next week. And, you know, with the loss last week and, you know, him getting a grilling from the owner, etc., okay, I understand he's a little bit frustrated. But once again, Lucha Underground has done something that mainstream wrestling does on a consistent basis, and that is rush angles like these. If you were at least going to do this, have Chavo be a little bit frustrated or something, and have him maybe lose that mixed tag team match, and then maybe you could have had a reason to do this. But no, he was in a match about 15 minutes before this, and he looked totally fucking fine. And he won! So why would he do this? You know, I understand going for the surprise ending, but there does have to be some kind of logic there. Now, maybe next week I'll be proven wrong. You know, maybe I will. I mean, it won't be the first time I've been proven wrong on YouTube, but maybe we'll get a promo segment next week with Chavo saying exactly why he's done it. But why do they have to rush an angle like this, just like a WWE would do, or just like a TNA would do to try and get a rating? Why couldn't they have just done this organically? I'm just saying, why not be different from mainstream wrestling and do things organically? I don't know. I just thought this was supposed to be an alternative to mainstream wrestling, but there you go. So this week's show, in my opinion, once again did show that it could be some kind of alternative. And that is essentially what these reviews are going to be all about. And I think this is what the product should be all about, in my opinion. It did prove that in some ways it can be an alternative to WWE, TNA, and mainstream wrestling in general. I mean, the tag match we got at the start, a very good tag match involving some pretty good action. The male on female stuff I thought was done a lot better this week. They've shown that males and females are on a level playing field now. If they're going to promote that, and it's exactly what they had to do. They should have done that last week, in my opinion. But once again, I still see these things on the show that I'm just thinking, oh, I've gone through all this with WWE and TNA. Opening promo segments done like that. A tag team match player to follow the opening segment, really? Oh, a big heel turn out of nowhere. WWE and TNA are calling. Are they giving you advice on how to book your shows, Lucha Underground? Just saying. But this week, I mean, the show started off well. I mean, obviously, that's the main angle. So, of course, it's going to start off well. That is the main angle. And that should be the thing that really stands out about the show. Then we got to the mixed tag match, which I wasn't really too bothered about. I didn't really see the point in Chavo being there. I'd rather have just seen Evilise and Sexy Star have some kind of match. And then we get to the main event. It just... Again, you're trying to tell the audience, we're going to bring the best fighters and Lucha. We're going to use this style. We're going to do that style. It's going to be high-flying, hard-hitting. And again, like you had the main event of the show just didn't really show that, in my opinion. Again, so what's your identity? You know, you've got to set yourself an identity at some point, Lucha Underground. I just wonder what this identity is. Maybe as the weeks go forward, we will see this identity. But right now, I think it's on the balance of trying to be an alternative to WWE and TNA and for wrestling fans in general, but at the same time falling into the same trap holes that a lot of these wrestling promotions do. So overall, I had like maybe 1 or 2 parts of this show, and it is an hour, so there's only 3 or so segments. I had 1 and 2, and there was less of the movie stuff done this week, which I thought just made the show flow a lot better for me personally, but maybe not for yourselves, I don't know. But that big Chavo heels, well, that came out of left field, didn't it? Kind of felt like something WWE or TNA, especially fucking TNA would do, didn't it? Anyway, it's only the 2nd episode. I'll keep watching this for another couple episodes. If it doesn't improve, then I will stop watching. But thank you very much for watching this review if you have. And if you're one of those people that's just going to mock my review because you think that I'm totally wrong and you think this show is awesome, well, just remember I'm new to this. I'm trying to be objective. I don't watch WWE and TNA anymore, and I do want some kind of viable option to watch in the wrestling. I don't just want to stop watching wrestling altogether and just watch NXT. I want a viable company that I can actually get behind, and I just... You know, I've heard a lot of positive things about this, and I'm just wondering if people are overhyping this a little bit. Kind of like they did with RH, and that ended up being like shit. Kind of like people have sometimes done with NXT, actually, including myself, but there you go. If you have any comments on the show, please let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll see you next week. I'll probably start uploading these reviews on a Friday or something like that. I know it happens on a Wednesday, but I've got Q&As and NXT, and quite frankly, they're just more important than this, really. But there you go. See you next week, guys.